All hits all the time. Star 98.3. It's 12 minutes after 8 o'clock. 8:12. Look who's in the studio.
Yes, the flashlight of justice.
That's right. That's exactly right.
What do you say, though, on your podcast? What do you say? You said something, the last line you said out of the podcast that I just listened to. It was the last line you said. I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah, she always throws me these curveballs, too.
I'm sorry.
I just talk.
There you go. That's what I do.
Covington out.
Covington out.
Covington out.
I like that.
That was great.
Phone lines are open for you if you want to be part of the show this morning. We have Tony Covington in the studio, who is a busy man.
Yeah, state's attorney in Charles County. Thank you so much for coming down today.
Thank you for having me.
I did listen to your latest podcast.
Well, thank you.
It's about abuse, child abuse.
Yes.
And some of it was very, very hard to listen to. But it's kind of like what we're talking about this morning. It was interesting because I don't want to give away everything in the podcast because I hope people listen to it. But one part in the podcast where I chuckled because it was the same way with me. There is a difference between corporal punishment and abuse.
Yes.
And you said that your father, that yes, you absolutely got whoopings, but you're like, but wait a minute, I deserved every whooping I got.
Absolutely.
Did your dad have a phrase that he would say before it was coming? My father did, and I'll tell you what it was. Like you tell the kids, stop it. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you again. Don't make me come. All of these cliche things
right.
that people. Here was the one that was like, okay, that was the last warning. My father would say, I'm going to send you down the road talking to yourself.
I haven't heard that one before.
And
you
that
haven't
was
heard that one?
that
No.
was it.
Mom,
when you got
Mom,
that one,
yeah.
it was like, oh, okay.
Mom
well,
was, I'm
done.
going to knock you into next week. That
Next
was Mom's.
week?
That's a good
Okay.
one.
My
I got that one,
dad was
too.
my dad was very disciplined. He never took a hold of you when he was mad.
Yeah.
He would always wait, which is worse for the kid, quite frankly, right? Because now you're anticipating.
Right.
You know you're gonna
Right.
whip it,
But
right?
good that he did that.
But right
yeah.
before he did everything, he'd always look at you and say, "This is going to hurt you a lot more than it's going to hurt me." Right?
Good.
Right.
That's
Good.
what I always say. And he'd
Good.
tell you exactly how many strokes you were going to get. You were telling the story earlier. Well, I threw a screwdriver on the roof one day. You know, I was trying to make it stick into the ground.
Stick in the ground, right.
And not only did I not say anything about it, I lied on my little brother about it.
Good man.
No.
So I got a whipping I got like 5 strokes for doing it. I got 10 strokes for lying about it. And I got 10 strokes for lying on my brother about it.
Oh,
So,
man.
but he would tell you everything, and
Yep.
you knew exactly why you were getting it, and rightfully so.
So let's
Right.
talk about that a little bit, because that is, again, your parenting technique out there in Radioland is your own. I'm not telling you how to do things. But I am someone who believes in, and fortunately my son was well enough behaved that I never really had to give him, other than, maybe as a toddler, a little swat on the butt. Don't do that. But how do you know the line? What is the line?
I know what it is because I listened to the podcast.
Okay, well, I did. Go ahead.
My line does go back to my childhood. I think that when you have the right to corporally discipline your children, but if you start leaving marks on them, you've
Marks.
gone too far.
Gotcha.
And quite frankly, that is the rule of thumb that I use in deciding whether or not a case goes before the grand jury. Now, the grand jury may not see it that way because of circumstances. They may say, no, this is okay because of circumstances. But that's the rule of thumb. If you start leaving marks on a child, then you have gone too far. You are clearly angry as opposed to you have the right to discipline your child, but you have to be disciplining the child. You can't just be going off because you're angry about God knows what.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. You need to keep your composure about you and calm down like your father did.
That's what he did. He never
in
grabbed
anger.
hold of us when he was angry. He'd always wait.
Which would make it a lot harder on him, too.
Oh, sure.
Because he knew he would have to punish, and he's calmed down now, and he's like, but I still have to punish.
Right.
So, and a lot of people out there would say, well, you don't have to after you've calmed down. You don't have to punish. But sometimes a message needs to be sent.
Right.
And
I mean, with me, next generation, I did what you did. I swatted the kids on the behind with my hand. That was
Yeah.
it. And let me tell you something. When they're wearing those little jeans, it starts hurting your hand. So I stopped.
Yeah, right.
It does.
Diaper.
It does. It's like when you hit a baseball and your hands ring. You're
That's
like,
right. So I stopped when they were old enough to where it's hurting my hand.
Yeah.
I stopped.
And we talk about that too, and we talked a little bit off air about Jack Young up in Baltimore wanting kids to get into the ring instead of taking guns and fighting.
well, yeah.
Do you think there is a different mentality from you guys and your generation, because I know girls are fighting more today than when I was in high school. The girls they're fighting over the most ridiculous nonsense. It's unbelievable. There's a difference in the generation. Your opinion, Tony, what happened? Where now it's just a gun, now it's a, whatever, instead of a, have we lost the ability to communicate? Are we angry? Are these kids angrier? What do you think it is? Because I know you went to high schools and middle schools and talked to them.
Well, it's all the above, really. Folks don't communicate. And this thing about pride, which everybody had even way back in the day.
Sure.
But it's a different. Now you are just not going to be punked, if I can use that
Yep.
phrase.
Or dissed.
You're not going to be dissed. You're not going to be punked, period. There's no, there's no gradation anymore, right? I mean, the little Spike Lee movie, somebody stepped on somebody's tennis shoe, next thing you know, right?
Right.
And that's how it is now. And kids, quite frankly, they do not want to be embarrassed in any way, shape, or form.
Boy, that's it right there on the head.
And so I'm not going to fight with this guy. I might lose. Back in my day, you get in a fight, and it wasn't a great day to get in a fight, but you get in a fight, you win or lose, and everybody go about their business. Nowadays, now I've got this guy dissed me. Okay, go get my boys, and we're going to come run down and start shooting up a house or something.
And
it's crazy.
What did your dad say about fighting too?
My dad said if you could not use your mind to stay out of a fight, it's your fault, okay, that the fight occurred. And you should feel like a dummy. And every fight I got into after that, I felt like a dummy. Didn't mean I didn't get to him because I was stupid. Okay, still got in fights over stupid stuff. You talk about the reasons.
Oh my gosh,
your mama's this, your dad's this, and you're going to fight over that.
Right.
Come on,
Of course, right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's always over something stupid. It's never a good reason.
No, or something on social media, which is just the worst thing going. It's that internet kill switch. We need that.
But that is an element to it, and I think so this is, anybody can do it right now. Go ahead and YouTube fights. And 19 million videos will come up. So there is a certain level of acclaim they get from going out there and kicking some ass. And it's just the dumbest thing in the world. But I think that's a factor to it as well, because if a fight breaks out in the classroom, 47 people film it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's uploaded to YouTube, and they all sit around and watch so-and-so beat up so-and-so 900 times. And it's a weird dynamic.
Then why wouldn't they show up to fight in Baltimore? They're fighting in the lunchroom at school. Why wouldn't they show up?
Well, that's spontaneous.
It's spontaneous.
It's spontaneous. Right. And I guess guys will meet after school every now and then, but not all that likely. And, it's planned. Everybody's going to be there, and, everybody's watching. Some kids might, but not most.
So is the horse, I said this earlier, is the horse out of the barn? Can we not teach kids how to communicate anymore?
No, we can do that. No, we can't give up. We cannot give up.
Let me ask you.
Sometimes you want to.
You're right about that, but we can't.
Especially you being in it all the time. Don't you ever just go, I'm just going to get in the car and I'm just going to drive away? Don't you ever feel that way? Oh, come on,
I don't.
Tony.
We look, especially as a prosecutor, you have to be an eternal optimist. You have to be. Because you have to believe that what you're doing, holding people accountable, is going to make a difference in the short run and the long run. So, no, I'm not. I don't feel like running anywhere. And folks in my office are dedicated; they're not going anywhere either.
So, how do we get kids?
I feel that way every day.
How do we get kids to communicate better then?
Well, I think we as adults have to communicate better first and foremost,
right?
In communicating to each other, and then to kids, and the adults have to lead that charge.
Okay,
and there are people out there who are trying.
Yeah. That leads me to my next question. It's kind of a societal question. I don't really know if you would have an answer to this or not. But
are you kidding me? The flashlight of justice?
Well, what am I saying?
He has an answer for everything.
Okay, so what about the lack of a positive role model in specifically young men's lives? That good guy in their life to say, this is right and this is wrong. I want you to do the right thing. If I have to force you to do the right thing, I will, but I want you to do the right thing. And I think that's missing a lot. Is that a fair statement or not?
Well, I think there's a lack of role models, male and female, out there in many people's lives. There's no question about that. I always say that.
Why aren't guys stepping up and being dads?
Well, look, we can look back, even back to our generation. There are plenty of kids out there who didn't have role models, okay, male or female, or otherwise. So it's always been there. Is it higher? That's kind of difficult to count, to quantify. I don't know why guys don't want to be dads, but
I think it's a shame, and it gets really difficult for let's say you're a woman or a grandparent, even a worse scenario, your grandma, and now you got a 15-year-old boy that you're raising. And you say, hey, go up there and clean the room. And he says, no. Well, what can you do?
What is your recourse?
This kid is a big, strong kid.
Right.
You're not going to grab him by the ear and twist him up the stairs unless he decides to allow you to do that. But he might just not knock you into next week. So I don't know what the deal is, but I think that is something that needs to be explored. The lack of a strong male in households and in communities to say, I want you to do the right thing. I can force you, but it's going to get done.
Well, look, we have plenty of people out there and plenty of organizations who are trying to step into that void. All right, we could list a whole bunch of them right here and now, and they do what they can do. Mm-hmm. Folks in schools try to do the best they can do. But let me, again, I guess being the optimist that I am, there are plenty of folks out there who didn't have good role models.
Right.
Who are still doing fine in this world.
Sure.
And some of who've had even terrible role models and are still doing fine in this world.
Correct.
So everything isn't lost here. But yeah, no, you're right. It's great if people try to step in, and people are trying to step in.
And I want to say this too, and I'm going to cause a controversy, and you caused it by your podcast.
It's your fault.
No,
Okay.
he did.
All right.
I listened to the podcast. And, talking about sexual assault against a child is just horrible, especially after the whole Carlos Bell thing. But one thing that you brought up that I thought was so interesting, I want to talk about it more on the show, even though we're running out of time, and that is, for security clearances in the government and things like that, you have to have a polygraph done.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about people that are around our children, sometimes more than parents are around their kids. Mm-hmm. So why not polygraph? And I'll take it a step further. Why not drug test teachers or anybody that is going to be in a school system? And you said it should be done. And I think that is an absolute great thing to do, because you hear about the educators. They are getting in trouble because of unwanted touching or sexual assault against kids in our very own school.
Right. Well, like I said, and I think we all know when we think about it, our kids are in schools every day.
Yeah.
That's where they have to be by law. It's no surprise that pedophiles are going to be drawn to jobs in there as much as they can be, right? That's what they do. They try to put themselves in a position to have unfettered access to children. That's what these predators do. I think the polygraphs, look, I was in the Air Force for 8 years. I was an officer, I was an intelligence officer. I worked up at the National Security Agency, up at NSA, right, where security is the most important. I had to have a polygraph to get these top secret clearances that I had.
Right.
All right. And it's called a lifestyle polygraph. They asked you certain things.
Wow.
All right.
Right.
And I don't see any reason why, if you want to be around my kids 20, all day long for 7-8 months out of the year, how many it is.
Coaching.
Right? Coaching and everything else.
Right.
I don't think it's too much to ask that you sit for and pass a polygraph. And part of it being the lifestyle, I don't care about all your other stuff, any affairs and all that. All I do care about is, do you have an appetite to have relations with children?
There you go.
Isn't that a great idea? It makes sense.
That's that. And you pass it, and there you go. And, I say this, and I know that, I don't know this, but I'm sure that certain people out there are going to have a problem with it. But I tell you this, all the educators in my family, from my daughter to my wife to my brothers, I got a whole bunch of them.
Me too.
They have no problem doing such a thing.
Well, where can people hear your latest podcast?
It's at, go to CCSAO, that's Charles County State's Attorney's Office.us.
Okay.
And it's right there, right on the front page.
How often do you upload them and do them?
Not often enough. We try.
Try like
you're busy.
once a month.
You're busy.
Right?
Once a month or so. We try about once a month, but yeah.
All right.
It's very informative, very interesting. So if you get a chance, take a listen to Tony Covington.
Yeah, we call it Tony Talks Charles County Crime.
Right.
So.
It's very well done. Very well done.
We appreciate you coming in. It's always fun to chat with you. I know you got a tough job, and it's an uphill climb both ways, so I appreciate the work you do, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, it is 8:26. Let's get a check of traffic.